Sure, no problem, man. Cooper, what's going on, man? You got anything you want to check out? Love your profile picture by the way, man. I just saw that season 4 is coming out in June. Very stoked. Anyone? Anyone got anything they want to look at? Remember, these are member-led sessions. If we don't have any questions, I could just jump right in and review the planned plays. Oh man, earnings plays. All right. Well, you know how I feel about that. Just see what happens. If we do market tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's going to be rather bullish. Sure, sure. I mean, in my opinion, the only reason that you would grab calls tomorrow is if you planned on holding through the earnings. Typically, the day of, you're not going to see some big move, and even if you do, you're gonna have to catch an absolutely monstrous move to make anything on the contract. So let's take Snow for example here, right? Snow's currently been balancing out over the last couple weeks, and we've been fighting this 235 area, right? Right up here around 235. It's been a strong resistance over the last couple weeks. Contracts right now, right? Even weeklies, you're paying $500 a contract, even $25 out of the money, right? So it's you know, let's say you do catch a big move. Let's say this thing rallies all the way into, 240 or 245 tomorrow. Even if you catch that move on super far out of the money contracts, you're paying $500 to make, $100 to make 20% on a $5 move on Snow. That's just not a good play. It Contracts are so inflated, not for the setup, but purely for the earnings. Granted, Snow is a play that I am very much looking forward to their earnings. I won't be in it, but on Friday, after they report and we have data in hand and we see the follow through, you know me as well as anyone else. I love post earnings plays. It's just smarter, in my opinion, to wait until after the earnings are out, where you have data in hand. You can wait maybe 10 or 15 minutes after the open to get a little bit of that IV crush out of the way, and then you can happily play it in whichever direction you want. But playing it before the earnings is a really bad idea in my mind, just because you have to catch an absurd move to make anything worthwhile paying the premiums on these contracts. And then on top of that, it's, say you do decide to swing it. Say you do catch a good move, you catch $5 or whatever, right? You make 20%, but if this thing tanks on earnings tomorrow, okay, you made 20% on a portion of the contract, and then these contracts super far to the money are worthless at open because it's going to be Friday. These things are going to be super far to the money on the day of expiration. They're going to be worthless. The risk is just so shitty. It's an awful idea in my opinion. Swinging anything through earnings is dumb, you know, unless you've been holding it for a month, right? And you've ridden the contracts up into that IV spike leading into the earnings. Does that make sense? Yeah, if you want to. Just saying words, because any shit can happen between the market, and they can go up $10, and then by the time market opens, it's back to where it was. So you just never know. Yeah, dude, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm bullish on Snow as well. I own equity. I'm looking for higher. The setup is really clean, but typically stuff tends to set up really well into earnings. But anyways, I'm bullish. If you had a gun to my head and said, "Hey, pick a side for Snow earnings," I'd probably say upside as well. But it's just such a toss up, and with how contracts are inflated, it's not worth the risk. If you are going to decide to take a swing through earnings, please just reduce your risk, right? If your standard sizing is 1500 bucks, take one of these contracts. One. Don't take, don't go standard sizing in this position because I promise you if you're wrong, it will be wiped clean. You will not be able to salvage much if this rejects, right? If this thing. Yeah, yeah, it's just, hey, I hope it works for you. Like I said, I hope it goes up. I mean, I'm an equity holder and I'm rooting for Snow, and like I said, the setup is really clean. So I hope for both of our sakes. Sure. Really same story, dude. AMC, dude. This, dude, it doesn't even like, I'm surprised this chart even moves. It like, yeah, they took advantage, right? When we inflated their stock 2 or 3 years back, right? What'd they do? They took that as, they did what their purpose is as a company owning shares. They took their profits so that they could use that money to renovate their business and run greater marketing and update their theaters, right? They took that money and ran. And now they're kind of in a shit position because insider ownership is so low and stock is so deflated, shorts or longs are getting absolutely crushed. You're going to need some either A, serious fundamental change in the company to warrant any upside, or B, you're going to need some sort of other massive short squeeze, which I hate to say it, it's probably not going to happen again for a long, long time just because so many people are underwater at these prices. Um, but let's look at let's look at the past few weeks. How was the reaction to their last earnings? They tanked. They dumped it, right? They dropped from $10 down to $7. They lost 20-30% on their last earnings. Is there a reason why you're particularly bullish here? AMC is customer driven, and a lot of people don't go to movies as much because they got streaming and everything else. So yeah, I like CRM. CRM's a fun name, but if you were gonna pick one name to lotto these, again, I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. But if you were gonna lotto any of these names through earnings, I would pick Snow. Yeah, exactly, exactly. So long as you acknowledge the risk and you size accordingly, then go for it. But again, you could be right. For example, since the contracts are going to open on Friday, let's run an example right here, right? So it's currently at. Oh, I was right with Carvana, and I. Yeah, but dude, it's not like a strategy thing. I was gonna say, just so long as you realize that, because it's not like you can win three in a row. That doesn't mean you've cracked the code to earnings. It, it's like it's like flipping a coin. Just because you get heads three times in a row, the next roll is still 50-50. And honestly, I'm glad I used that example because this is a bet that isn't 50-50, and that's the example I want to go through right now. So let's say you have 245 contracts. Okay, these contracts are $900. That's only a $10 move, right? But because these contracts are going to open up on Friday, we can assume that their time premium is going to be zero at the end of the day, which it will be, right? So that means if you're buying the 245 calls by the end of day on Friday, these contracts need to be $9 over 245. So that puts you at 254. If this stock isn't right here at 254 on market open, these contracts are going to be red. Okay. So even though you called the right direction and it got a big move, if the move isn't big enough, you'll still lose money. Okay. So that's what I mean by it's a 50-50 coin flip that isn't even 50-50, right? Because in reality, it is just up or down, you know? The best bet is just playing equity. That truly makes it 50-50. If it goes up, you make money. If it goes down, you lose money. But with options, it's not 50-50. You have to be right by a lot. Okay? Does that make sense? So let's look at your contracts. Let's say the 755s, right? Which is, I mean, which contract would you reasonably play of these? Which ones are you looking at? The 250s have good volume, right? Good volume, good liquidity. So do the 260s. That's typically the trend, right? Big whole numbers or divisible by 5. Those contracts will typically be better volume. Which contracts would you reasonably play if you were to swing this? Daniel?
Yeah, I missed the question because you were not really. I did. What was that?
Which contracts would you reasonably which contracts would you reasonably play? If you say you're only going to take one contract, which strike are you going to take? It's 234.
It's 245.
Okay, so let's say 240. 240? Okay. Okay, so they're about 1100. Okay, so you need 11 bucks over 240. So 251. Okay? If if this thing doesn't go, huh? That's to break even. So your chart needs to go by Friday, right? Friday is the first. So if this isn't at 251 on open Friday, you're going to be red. And honestly, that's not like a 251 is a very doable move if we're being completely real. Snow moves a good chunk on earnings, and honestly, they can move a lot based on sentiment from other earnings, right? So when Nvidia and all the semis were doing really well, Snow did great. They move a lot off of Meta as well. So I mean, it's possible, but again, it's just the risk reward is not great. Like, are you willing to give up $1,000 with a one contract play if you are wrong on the earnings? Because that's what those contracts are trading for. No, I can say with like 99% certainty if this is wrong. You got to realize these are weekly contracts that if it rejects will be deep out of the money on the day of expiration. These contracts will open like let's say it rejects just 5 or 10 bucks, right? You're now like 30 bucks out of the money, okay? On the day of expiration. Those contracts are going to open up worth $1 or like 50 cents. You're going to lose 90 to 95% of the contract immediately off the open.
If you're getting contracts for earnings, be able to fully that just comes after it comes out.
Yeah, it's like I said, that's what I mean by it's a 50-50 bet that's not even 50-50. If you want to play earnings, the best bet is just with equity because that is truly 50-50. If it goes up, you make money. If it goes down, you lose money, right? Or you could short equity, right? But that requires margin. So, do with that as you will. But at the same time, with options, you have to go in the money, especially on an earnings that falls on a Thursday night where the next day is the expiration date, right? If you don't okay, yeah, you're right. I was mistaken. But regardless, you'll still lose most of that capital. With 2 days left of expiration, or 1 day until expiration, you'll still lose most of it if you're wrong. Earnings plays in my mind, again, I this is one of the biggest pitfall new traders fall to is they think, oh, when's the best time to catch a big move? Earnings. Well, it's a complete lotto. You know what I mean? There's no analysis there. Unless you're insider trading, it's not worth it. I've got lots of videos on our social medias about so many successful post earnings plays that we take. Trust me, I want to play this thing. I hope it reports really well. so that, Thursday morning, as soon as the data's out and we can wake up to a good move, first thing in the morning, we're going to be looking to jump in after we have data in hand and we can guarantee that that session is going to have above average volume and there's going to be great liquidity on the contracts. So playing it before earnings, again, you acknowledged it. It's a complete lotto. It's just not worth the risk in my opinion. So I don't play them. I stay far away from them. But again, Thursday, you can expect a plan play tomorrow night on snow, regardless of where it goes, up or down. I'm gonna be playing it. After earnings, they move great. But yeah, that's if again, out of the three that you mentioned, if you were gonna play any of them, again, I'm not encouraging it, I'm not suggesting it, but if you were gonna play any of them, I would choose snow out of the three. No, you have the right idea. The closer you are to the money, the better. So if you can afford within your own risk to play the 240s or the 235s, that's your best bet. But again, I do not recommend it. I'm hoping that you come to your senses and decide not to play earnings. Again, if it skyrockets to 280, I'll be the first to tell you, hey, I'm sorry I discouraged you. But if it gaps down to 200 and you lose $800, I'm not gonna say I told you so, but I'll be thinking it, okay? All right. All right, that's enough with earnings plays. Roman Rambo, welcome to the chat, man. Glad you decided to pop in. Does anyone else have any questions? Captain, how's your night going? This information that we got, I was kind of wondering what, like I knew what. Oh, you cut out, man. So, I kind of wanted to more know like why that is and kind of like technically what happened because I know because I understand what you're saying, but I want to know technically why or maybe why that happened. Sure. So basically, Coin is a Bitcoin proxy. There's a few of them, right? So yeah, I swung Mara and great yesterday made 500%. Yeah, because it gapped up. It gave you the move overnight. But for my planned play with options, since we didn't get in yesterday, there was no opportunity today. Um, as you're aware, right, there are lots of Bitcoin proxies in the market, right? So Coinbase is one of them. Mara is one of them. Riot. You've got MSTR. There's a bunch of names you can play to capitalize on Bitcoin strength, right? Coin is my personal favorite just because its ADR is very, very nice. It's got great option liquidity and it's a large cap, so it's right up my alley for what I like to play with options. What I mean by it got ahead of itself was we clearly saw a gap and dump despite Bitcoin rallying for the second straight day in the middle of this breakout. So this didn't really make sense. I would have expected a higher close today. But what I mean by that is at the end of the day, Coinbase is a company, right? It has some sort of intrinsic value based on its profits and its size, right? Um, there's nothing you can do to change that. Similar to how we talked about this a couple weeks ago, how the oil commodity is going to be different based on varying levels of supply and demand compared to um, oil companies, right, that produce a profit, that pay a dividend, right? They're naturally going to have higher values and move more based on strength. This is the opposite, right? Bitcoin can go to the fucking moon because it doesn't have its only basis of value is what someone else is willing to pay for it. There are catalysts that can move Bitcoin, such as, acceptance among paying customers, whether they're paying for stuff in Bitcoin, SEC regulation, stuff like that, right? There are catalysts that can move Bitcoin, but there is no intrinsic value. There's none. It doesn't produce a profit, it doesn't pay a dividend. There's nothing you can do to calculate a value of Bitcoin. Coinbase you can, right? They have profits, you know, they have growth margins that they need to hit. They have, they don't pay a dividend, but anyways, there is an intrinsic value associated with Coinbase. So I believe part of the reason why is that people have kind of got ahead of themselves with the strength of Bitcoin and are too closely associating its price with Coinbase's price. And so that's why I believe we saw a little bit of a divergence today, whereas, Bitcoin was up really nice this morning before the market opened. Coinbase felt the gap up, but once retail got their hands on it and regular Coinbase shareholders who are invested in Coinbase because, they see the growth, they see how much Coinbase is making off of, commissions and stuff like that and whatever, they didn't see the same valuation as they did with Bitcoin, right?
Saying that I was thinking into words, but it's kind of a yeah, kind of a realization that maybe it's not so closely attached, and therefore you kind of take profits to reduce risk.
Sure. But the main thing is if Bitcoin is strong, Coinbase is going to perform well because it attracts attention to cryptos. And if people are trading cryptos, where are they going to do it? The most common place is going to be on Coinbase, right? So the more attention is on cryptocurrencies, the more business that Coinbase is going to get, right? So regardless, if Bitcoin is strong, Coinbase is going to perform well. That makes sense. That's a direct correlation. However, it doesn't stop the fact that they just reported earnings and that's the data that we're going off of. Now, next quarter, if they report an EPS of like 1.5 or they increase revenue by 30% or they announce a dividend or something like that drastically increases their expectations for the growth of the company or gives an increased intrinsic value with the dividend, then there's reason for this to continue higher. Otherwise, we're talking purely about fundamentals right now. We're not focused on the chart so much. But at this price, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but in my opinion, I believe people kind of realized, oh, we rallied hard off the earnings, right? We got a big gap up off the earnings, and we've since cooled off, right? Meanwhile, Bitcoin held flat during that same period, and we've finally seen a rally, and Coinbase rallied off that, right? And so we had kind of the regular investor during this period, during this choppy period, Coinbase cooled off, right? And this was the investors taking profit, right? Since we've moved higher, I think all the people who didn't get to sell up here and were worried right here took today as an opportunity to lock in those profits that they missed out on.
Yeah, got it. Well, right.
Sure.
My contracts that I have swinging from Monday haven't had so. It's kind of two questions stem from this. Number one, my contracts, for specifically MAR contracts, haven't seen as big of moves compared to any of the other um, crypto like follower stocks like MSTR. Like for example, on Monday specifically, both MSTR and Coin both saw upwards of 1,000% on all their contracts. Where normally Mara would say same thing, except because earnings is coming up, and because there's, I guess, uncertainty of what to come, those contracts didn't move as fast.
You're playing short term. Real quick. I know what you're getting at. You're playing short term contracts, correct? Weeklies.
This week, yeah.
Okay. So let's look at the stock. It's gone from $23 to $32. That's
Right.
$9 of intrinsic value. So best case scenario, let's say you're in 23 calls, right? Those contracts gained $9 of intrinsic value. So it doesn't matter if you paid, let's say you paid 100 for them. Those contracts, if they went 100 to 900, they did 800% gains. If you paid 500 for those contracts and they gained $9 of intrinsic value, that's 5 to 14, then they only made 250 or 300%, right? Then you look at Coinbase. Coinbase has done 160 to 210, right? That's $50 of intrinsic value. Okay?
Right.
So it comes down, if you're looking at those contracts, the expected move, right? During this period when most of those names were flat, and it was the same for all of them, right? If you look at Coinbase, they had about 4 days worth of kind of low volume, kind of balance action. Same with Mara. Mara was also kind of balancing at lows for about 3 or 4 days. So that gave short dated contracts time to loosen up on the IV, right? Because expectations for a bigger move had cooled off, right? When expectations come down, it's the same thing as VIX, right? When VIX is low, premiums are cheap because expectations for prices are very low, right? When VIX is high, contracts are really expensive because people expect big moves. They're willing to pay more for premium. Since we got this move, it came down to purely intrinsic value now that they're in the money. So this contract moved $9 of intrinsic value. And that's what's so important about options is it doesn't matter. If two stocks move 5% in a day and you're playing same day contracts, it doesn't matter. If one stock's 5% move is $5 and another stock's 5% move is $50, the same day contract that did $50 is going to make way more money than the 5% that did $5. I know we're throwing a lot of numbers around, but do you follow me?
Yes, yes. I would like repeating it one last time.
Yeah, yeah. So based on the value of the stock, we're trading options here. So the premium that you're paying is directly correlated to expectations of the price movement. So during this 3 day period, when options were, we weren't moving a lot, right? We were in a balance, and this was the same on both charts. Mara and Coinbase both had this same 3 or 4 day period of a balance. Okay, during that 3 or 4 day period, option premiums became very cheap because expectations for large moves were little, right? And then we made the reference to VIX. When VIX is really low, like it is right now, SPX premiums are very cheap because expectations for large movements are very low. When VIX is high, premiums are very expensive because everyone expects large moves. Okay? So, both charts had this same 3 day period allowing IV to come down, meaning premiums got really cheap. When Bitcoin made this breakout, they both, they both shot up with IV, but when they go in the money, it comes down to a pure basis of intrinsic value. So Coinbase moved $50, Mara moved $9. If you're playing same week contracts, like I said, if two stocks are the same exact price or move the exact same amount, they both move 5%. If one stock's 5% move is only $5 and another stock's 5% move is $50, with same day contracts or short dated contracts, the 5% move on the $50 move is going to make you way more money. It's going to make you $50 of intrinsic value compared to $5 of intrinsic value. And that's only the case with short dated contracts. If you're playing 6 months of time, right?
Right.
They'll produce a similar amount percentage wise.
So choosing for the would it be then smart to just play the highest priced stock, whichever one has the just higher number value?
See, that's okay. So this is a whole different conversation because think about MSTR. MSTR is the most expensive one, but look at the contracts, right? Are you willing to pay? You know, look at these spreads. The volume and the liquidity is very poor, right? You're if you buy this at ask and your average is the mid price, you're immediately down 10%, right? So sure, if this thing moves, if you get a 5% move on this and you get a 5% on Coinbase, yes, the intrinsic value on this for contracts will move much greater. But you're making a sacrifice for liquidity and your sizing capability. If your max size is what's your max size on any given trade, Captain? $1,000, 2,000?
Like
Yeah, if you take a position, let's say contracts are $100 each. How many contracts are you buying?
more like
So your risk is about $1,000 a play, right? Okay, you can't play this.
right.
Simple as that. Coinbase, Coinbase is they don't have earnings, do they? Contracts are normal. Great. So Coinbase, if you wanted to play this, you could easily play, 215s. You could grab 3 of these. Boom. Now you've got scalability, right? And you've got size.
Right.
right? So
Right.
that's not always the best example, is to just use intrinsic value. If you're expecting a same move, if you're expecting 5% on two stocks, I wouldn't always necessarily just go for the one that's more expensive because you'll capture more intrinsic value. But I
Right.
would say you should definitely focus more on liquidity and sizing, your personal sizing. Now, if you're playing $10,000 each, if your standard sizing is $10,000 for a position, then yeah, if the liquidity was better, I would suggest MSTR.
Right.
But the liquidity is just not there on those contracts, so I don't think it's worth the risk. Because, like I said, if you pay ask, which is likely what you would have to do if you want to get filled because liquidity is so poor, if you pay ask, in looking at those contracts, how we saw, if you pay ask and your average price is the mid price, look at these contracts, dude. If you pay 3,900 and your mid price is 3,500, you're immediately down $400 a contract or 10% immediately off the open. So
Yeah.
again, you're making a sacrifice here, and this is a unique example, right? There are some names where um like let's look at, like, if we look at like Lowe's and Home Depot, right? Two direct competitors, but one of them has a much higher price than the other. Lowe's is 235, Home Depot is 375. If you're expecting a 5% move on both stocks in the same day due to some catalyst, I can't off the top of my head think of a catalyst that would affect both of them. Um, but if you're expecting 5% the same day, they
Right.
both have great liquidity, and they both have, they're both looking for 5%, you would want to go with the higher dollar sign per share ticker, purely because with options, if you're playing short dated options, intrinsic value is extremely important, right? 5%, I'm going to run some quick numbers, right? 375 times 0.5, 5% move on Home Depot would make you $19, right? And what did we say Home Lowe's was? 235 times 5%, whereas you'd only make $12 on Lowe's. And if you're playing same day contracts at the money, you want to catch the $18 move compared to the $12 move because you'll make
Right.
$18 of intrinsic value compared to 12.
Okay. I think I'm starting to kind of wrap my head around how this. Yes, it definitely makes sense. That definitely makes sense. But then I guess my question that leads after that is, so earnings. So the earnings date on Mark kind of has no effect on. Does it have some effect on those
Yes.
contracts being pledged?
Yes, it does. Because these are inflated due to earnings.
Right. Okay.
This is a
Okay.
this is we that's why we were using, that's why we didn't use Mara contracts in this example, is because they have earnings what, tomorrow or Wednesday.
Right.
These contracts are not an accurate
Yeah.
these are not an accurate representation of what they normally would be.
Right.
Let's see.
Right. Okay.
What's Riot up to? Riot could be a decent example. They just had earnings, so contracts are back to normal.
Right. Add CLSK into that group because that's the one I've been playing. I like it. Yeah, I have
CLSK.
equity is nice. Yeah, CLSK equity is nice.
Ooh, this does look pretty. Yeah, this is probably a good example too. But how's liquidity? Liquidity is
Yeah.
very good. I did not expect that.
Very good.
Wow.
Yeah, the life one. Coin is so overinflated and Mara is so crowded.
It is.
CLSK
It is.
in that first day, CLSK outpaced all of them.
Because when you think of a Bitcoin stock, what's the first one you think of?
Coin and then Mara.
Coin. The average person, not us, we are a select group of people who we're very focused on everyday movement of the market. We know every single Bitcoin proxy, right? We can name 5 or 6 off the top of our head. The average person, if they think, oh, what's a stock that relates to crypto? Coinbase, right? That's their first instinct. And so people who are, kind of not everyday managing like most of us are, that's the first name they're thinking of, right? So again, like, Coinbase more than likely is very, very overvalued at the time. Because again, relating back to our initial topic, they are a company. They do have somewhat of an intrinsic value based on their growth, based on their dividend or lack thereof, their revenue, all that. So again, We covered a lot of good stuff on this topic. I'm really excited to get this video posted. But anyways, um, any follow up questions on this topic, Captain, or anyone else?
Yes, I have one last kind of final addition. It's things on these crypto stocks other than CLSK haven't really moved the price as much as other stocks. Is this because the price is tied mainly to Bitcoin's price? Because that seems to be kind of the main catalyst that moves everything, and earnings kind of seems to do nearly not a lot.
Well, a lot of their earnings are pretty predictable. You know, they have set rates on their commissions. They have somewhat of a track record in terms of their growth rate over how many quarters they've reported earnings now. It doesn't come as much of a shock. The one shock factor that is a catalyst for all of them and that they all have in common is the connection to Bitcoin, right? MSTR is a little bit odd because they just own a lot of Bitcoin, right? Their profits directly stem to the performance of Bitcoin, right? So they will likely get a much bigger reaction compared to someone like Coinbase. I personally don't know if the Coinbase team owns crypto, right? They probably do. They probably do. Like their cash holdings or their asset holdings will probably relate directly to the performance of crypto. But the main thing is their growth rate, right? If their assets grow like crazy in a quarter, that'll be reflected in their earnings. And that's being priced in as we speak. Everyone's looking at crypto rally right now and thinking, okay, if Bitcoin holds, again, I'm kind of talking out of my ass right now because I don't know how much Coinbase holds of Bitcoin. Um, but let's say it's on their assets, right? If Bitcoin grows like crazy, then that's going to affect things like their quick ratio, right? Like their direct ability to pay off debts based on their holdings in both cash and assets, right? Um, but at Coinbase's root is they're a business as a brokerage, right? They take commissions. People pay for specific account types, right? They offer. Do they offer any like APY programs, anything like that? I'm not 100% familiar, but again, their business is a brokerage, right? Compared to,
Mara.
dude, that beats me. I think they're just another.
Mara's a miner.
Yeah, miner. That's it. That's what they are.
Okay. Okay.
Isn't Riot as well?
So yeah,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is the only publicly traded platform. So when Bitcoin is mining, there's a lot of accounts. People are opening accounts. People are way more active. They're collecting a lot more commissions. For the other ones, and this may tie to why you don't see big movements in ER, right? All miners like Mara and Riot and CLSK and all of that, they're miners published. You know, they publish the number of miners they have. They publish their hash rate. So there's not really surprises coming in their ERs because you know how much they're mining month to month. So there's nothing in the numbers that's going to shock you, save like maybe, if they're holding more Bitcoin than they normally would, or sold more, to cover costs than they normally would. That's why they move stronger with price of coin because the coin is, they're mining the commodity. I mean, if you think of it as like a digital commodity, when oil blows up, you see a lot of movement in Chevron and Exxon, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a direct correlation. That's what we were tapping into earlier is that, the strength of Bitcoin, the only reason these names move as proxies to Bitcoin is because in some way or another they are directly correlated to the performance of that company. But shoot, I don't want to use up all our time on this. Does anyone here who we haven't heard from have any questions? Roman, Live for Life. Any of you guys have anything you guys want to touch on? Or any general questions? We can move away from this topic.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could look at maybe Google.
Google, sure. I know Hoosier, one of our analysts who's in here right now. I'll touch on it from my side of things, but I know Hoosier's in a position on it, so maybe if you're here, Hoosier, you could jump in and help out. Yeah, yeah. No matter how much time we have left, I'll go over to handle a market outlook, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, looking here at Google, right? Definitely a bit of a blow off top leading into that earnings. We definitely got a bit ahead of ourselves. We saw that sharp sell off after earnings. We tried to buy most of it back, failed to make a new high, and have since been kind of trending lower. Uh, so sentiment's a little bit weaker than the general market for sure. We've definitely seen some relative weakness here. But one thing I kind of want to point out that I'm seeing is this area. I guarantee it. I'm going to draw a zone right here, and then I'm going to throw in volume profile, and I guarantee you this is the point of control for the chart that we've seen over the last, year. Wow, can't believe it's been a year already up here. This area about 138 up to 140 has been a very, very big point, right? We've seen a few rejections off of it, four major rejections off of it, and then above it, it becomes support. So it's become a definite point of doing business, right? This area is where people have a lot of sitting orders and where they like to do business. So again, resistance under and support above. I'm going to throw on volume now, and you're going to see, I guarantee you, our volume shelf is right here at about 140. Um, there's a bigger one below. That's surprising. But yeah, big shelf here. Right at about 137 is that point of control. We did find some buyers off of that today. I know Hoosier is looking at this as an area where he wanted to look for longs, and he was adding to his long position here yesterday, kind of expecting another bounce from this area. My thing is, I definitely want to see it continue to hold this area. Otherwise, if I do start to see weakness under about 136 to 135, it would open the door to much lower in terms of price action. You don't have much liquidity all the way from about 136 down to the low 130s. If you do make that slip, this is an area where I definitely believe buyers would be stepping up. Looking much bigger picture, if we see as low as 125, I'm a buyer. That's where I'd start setting up long-term entries for equity. But short term, again, you definitely want to see this 137 area continue to be defended. You don't want to slip under this volume shelf because that would open the door for us down to about 132 to 130, and I don't personally want to see that. Um, is there something specific you're looking to do with it? Are you in a position where you're looking to make an entry? What's up?
Yeah, I'm in a position from yesterday for the 143 next week, and it's been very helpful so far, so I appreciate that.
Sure. Are you in the position with Huji, or is that a personal play you decided to take?
Yeah.
Sweet, good to hear. Huji, do you want to give any thoughts, any update on the play or anything? Google. I gave my thoughts on it. Kind of gave kind of areas to look out for, spots that I think are important. And he says he's in. Yeah, he says he's in the play with you. So if you have any updates for him,
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the end of the day, basically, one very good. I want to step long on it. That's when you think it's if we don't see with 40 here pretty quickly, we may not have enough to hit our contract. So what I do is I'll cut mine, but I'll still end up by getting in some other ones if we don't start, if the market does start to sell off here pretty soon in the next couple of days. Downside on the market. That's what I was kind of typing up with my channel now. What I'm kind of leaning towards, because I mean, the signs are all pointing the downside. Same time, we continue to see the market get bid up every time we hit the support pivot. So we need to break down, to take over. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like I said, that 138 is the key level we got to watch. If we get a daily close under that, then the play is invalid to me. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Yeah, no problem.
all right. All right. Susio, I know you're coming. What's up? Oh wait, hang on, Susio. Give me Give me one sec. This I think the one tagged me in chat with something earlier. The one, what's up, man? Mr. 5353, I saw you unmute and mute. What's up?
Yes, how you doing, man? I'm ready to about the earnings already, but not playing them and all. But I was already in the play already. So I just wanted to get your thoughts about TJ Maxx.
TJ Maxx, TJX. So they have earnings. Did they have it today? No, they have it tomorrow. Tomorrow before open. Yeah, so this one's a little bit tough again. If you're already in it, not much we can do. They have definitely seen their fair share of a run up here, broken over that 100 level. Is this all time highs? I believe it is. Yeah, so we're at all time highs here. Um, every other earnings before this, they got a negative reaction last time. The one before that, they got a positive. So yeah, what's the trend here? Wow, trend on earnings is extremely strong. They're making more and more money each quarter, which is good to see. I think that's what this kind of run up is leading into. A lot of people are expecting a fourth quarter of pretty nice growth here. So they're gonna have to beat expectations by a good bit. Again, I don't know the figures off the top of my head. I don't really track TJX too much. But coming into the session, I would imagine expectations are probably close to around 1.2 EPS. I think I can look at it here. Let me. 1.34 is the expectation. Wow,
Yeah.
that's huge. Okay, so yeah, Phew, that explains the run up then. I mean, even if they come in on expectation, that's another insane quarter of growth. So, um, wow, 134. Yeah, anyways, I mean, you already saw a decent run up here into the earnings, so expectations are extremely high. This one definitely makes me a good bit nervous. Are you long? You're not shorting it, are you?
No, I'm going for a car.
You're looking for upside. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can really say. I have no clue what the earnings are going to be. It's just because you've already seen a run up. Not only do they need to beat to continue higher, they're going to need to show out. They're going to need to see some incredible numbers to continue higher. Granted, the trend on the stock already is extremely bullish, and they've maintained some awesome reports this last year and the year before. So I have no doubt they can still do well. But even last quarter, they got a great earnings. They got a massive beat on their previous quarter, and they still dropped it, right? So expectations are extremely high, and if they don't really knock it out of the park, they could definitely see a little corrective move like we saw last quarter. So this one definitely makes me a bit nervous, but I'm rooting for you. I don't. I like I said, it's earnings. There's nothing I can really say. I have no clue what the report's going to say. Um, it really is just a lotto kind of a gamble. But I wish you the best, and like I said, I hope they kill it. What strike do you have?
Music check. Oh no. Hold on, I'm not sure. Great. Straight price.
101 for this week.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's cool. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So 101, and they're going for about 200 just to round up. They're currently at 105. So you need to get $2 over 101. This thing needs to open at 103. So if you open right about here, you'll be green. Otherwise, yeah, 103. So this is the move you need to make for earnings. Otherwise, your contracts unfortunately will probably lose value. Other than that, though, that's about all the analysis we can do. It's earnings. We can't predict the future, but I wish you the best, man. I hope it works out for you. Hell yeah. Oh right. El Sucio, what's up, man? What did you want to check out?
I was gonna say, I can't believe you did a whole analysis of Google and not one mention of Gemini.
I don't I think it's overblown. I think they'll have it fixed in a month, and everyone will move on.
And the market thinks so too, because there's been a lot of flow into between next.
Exactly.
There's the light growing and Target also. So you see,
Boeing is a completely different. Boeing.
like
Budweiser, that's
I mean,
Budweiser is a good comparison because it's the same issue. It's the same thing. But that directly affected their sales. Google's primary business is not AI. Google's primary business is marketing and advertisements. Um, this has no effect on their advertisements business. Budweiser, if people stop buying beer, that affects their business.
but if people stop using Google as a suite of products, which happen. But again, I'm not passing
And hey,
judgment here. I'm just
and I made the joke yesterday.
for a quick rebound.
I made the joke yesterday. Are you gonna start using Bing? Exactly. You know.
Wait, I want to look at two things together if we can. I want to look at Netflix.
Sure, Netflix.
Uh, and so they gapped up this morning on a price upgrade by an analyst
Sure.
and raised the upgrade, upgraded it by like over $100,
Wow.
saying that he expected price increases. And
Oh,
this
that's
year.
new.
And so the last time that they announced price increases, so I'm looking at both short term and long term here. The last time they announced price increases, it moved massively and like way longer than I thought it would. I think it was like in the 20% run when they announced price increases. Um, Today on the intraday, it was interesting. It spent time rejecting 601, 602 area, like 600 to 602, which was the area that it hadn't seen in, a couple of years, right?
Sure.
And then at the end of the day, it broke through it and it closed pretty much right at it. So if you throw up a shorter term chart, you see that intraday. It's interesting. So I just wanted to get your take on it, right? Kind of build value closer and closer and closer to it and finally broke through it.
So a few things. For one, I hear news all the time. Netflix is raising prices again. Netflix another price hike. It feels like they raise prices every 2 months, honestly. Um, there's no surprise. I'm not surprised in the slightest that they're raising prices. Obviously, that's a positive catalyst, especially considering just last quarter they announced their highest number of subscriptions ever. And I do think that's likely in part to the fact that they have just now started to crack down on password sharing. Um, I just got my first notification. Me and my dad share an account. My dad lives in, my dad lives more upstate, and I logged on to Netflix the other day, and I got the notification. Oh, you're not on, you're not on the account TV or whatever, right? Like you're not on the same Wi-Fi as the account, and so yeah, I had to break off and make my own account. That's also a major catalyst that is affecting their business directly that is now going into effect. They pitched that idea 3 months ago and they just now put it into effect. That is more than likely going to spur up a lot of, new subscriptions for this next quarter. So the fact that people are just now realizing that is probably another reason why this is getting some run. On top of that, price increases. This isn't a stock I really want to be shorting. What's up?
Max, I think you're mistaken on the timing of that because that may be your first alert 6 months ago. It's you know friends that I was sharing an account with, and also my parents were sharing an account with one of their friends. They all got kicked off like a long time ago. So
I don't
I think
think
it's
that
getting
happened a long
fixed.
time ago, dude. I think they announced it just a few months ago and just recently put it into effect. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, like 6. Yeah.
either way, that's something that's being priced into their earnings and is could if I'm wrong, then that's definitely the reason for their last earnings announcement being all-time high subscriptions, right? Regardless, price increases are like you said are bullish. It's in the middle. It just cleared over its most recent pivot high. It's at like 2-year highs right now. It's trending higher. Strong close today over 600. Um, I would imagine dips get bought. Honestly, I'm not going to say tomorrow's going to be another big green day, but I would imagine dips continue to get bought as the next big area here that I'm looking at is about 615 up to 625. This would be an area where I would expect some sellers to be sitting. But again, as for the short term, not a name that I'd be looking to go gung ho with shorts on. I imagine they continue to trend higher here.
I'm not looking to short it. That breakthrough of 602, you know, makes me think that dips to 600 will get bought. My near term target is 615, 615.
Right on the money. That's where I like as well.
Yeah. What time wise, like how long do you think they need to balance in this area, or buy dips and
Well,
push
they're
back rejections, or
well, they're not
do
in
you
a
see them
balance.
just moving up?
They were in a 3-day balance, but they've exited it today and they closed over the pivot high. They should be in trending action right now.
Breakout time.
Yeah, it should. I wouldn't be surprised if the action looks something like this, right? You might see some red days, some pullbacks, but I'd imagine they get bought, right? Action should look something like this, or best case scenario, something like this. Probably not like this because this was post earnings, but I would imagine this is the start of trending action.
Yeah, I was thinking a weekly or maybe buying a week, but I do like upside here, which I know is
Let's
strange
see.
to hear from me.
Let's see. I like these. These are pretty pricey. Let's go next week. Probably no, these are still pretty pricey.
It's tough to buy time on this thing.
Yeah, dude, it moves a lot. It moves a lot. I don't know. I was gonna say 625s for next week are probably decent, but again, probably you want to buy those on a dip. You don't want to buy those here. I like it. I like it. With time, I'm sure you'll be fine. Um, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I think you're starting to see some trending action here.
The other one I want to look at is VKTX.
VKTX. Oh, I'm typing that in the wrong place.
I would have traded it today if I'd known they added
Oh,
strikes intraday.
whoa. What's the
They
news on
had
this?
phase two data on an obesity drug.
Oh, not a
some analysts
bio
said
name. Oh
Basically,
no.
basically flawless. No, but listen, hear me out. So it's an obesity drug. Look at what LLY has done. Look at what NBO has done. Like that is the new hot market.
They added
They're an
strikes.
8.5 billion market cap. They announced a $350 million offering tonight. Really small compared to their share count. It's going to add maybe 4 or 5 million to
Yeah.
100 million share count. Market liked it. They did not dip on the offering. I'm eyeing it for weeklies. They added strikes up to 100 today. Looking for a dip to try and capitalize on it. I think this might keep going.
Yeah. Jeez, I just don't care for pharma names. But I mean, hey, this is half the battle with the pharma names is getting that clearance, getting that what was it, FDA approval or something like that.
Now it's just data on phase two. So
Okay.
back down in between phases, but right now, I think the shine wears off.
Yeah, dude. Action was super positive today all day, just basing the whole way higher. I was gonna say
Yeah,
use the
after hours, they did not reject the offer.
I like it. I mean, you could probably expect it to keep running for a day or so, but you're paying for that kind of confidence with premiums. Like I'm looking at contracts right now. There's nothing out of the money. Are you sure they added strikes? It doesn't look like they
Yeah,
did.
it's showing on mine.
Okay, I'm not seeing it. It's not on TOS. I've got all selected, and I don't. There's nothing out of the money.
I'm on TOS too. Maybe
What are the
they added
price?
them
What's
after
the price
hours.
of 100 strikes for this week?
100 strikes are trading $3.
Oh,
Uh, low print was $1, high print was $10, and the liquidity, the volume is balanced. It's the highest volume traded strike today
yep, makes sense.
under the 49.
Okay.
So they're trying to do that gamma. There's nothing, nearly zero volume on any lower strikes. What ticker are you looking at?
This one, VKTX.
Let's do that. It's solid.
But yeah, I want to know what's the volume. What was the volume on those 100 strikes today?
There were 1,500 on 100 strike.
That's less than I would have expected. Um,
Yeah.
what's the spread? What's the spread?
The day.
What's the spread?
3 and 310. It's reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
310.
It's really good. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully in the morning. I'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully in the morning.
If your advice on what level you're looking at, potentially that would be a reason to expect some
I gotta
business.
I gotta change some settings here. But let's see. Point of control was at high a day. Great. 87. If you do get a dip, you're gonna have two spots here. If it does reject, honestly, I would just say strength over 90 is worth the entry to chase longs. But if you do get a dip, your two spots are about 80. You've got a decent volume taper here at about 81-ish. And then your next spot is right down here at 75. Whole numbers get respect. Coincidence. Yeah. So 75 and 80 are the two spots where volume is stacked. Um, Other than that, I would say there's probably not going to be a great dip opportunity. If anything, I would just play this 90 level. It's gotten respect. You struggled with it in the day and you're struggling with it after hours. If you continue to see strength over 90, I'd say it's worth the chase, honestly.
Ride the mama.
Yeah.
I feel you.
These are my three levels though. I'd be locked in on 90. If you're risking shorts off of 90 have printed so far, but if you're looking for a dip, 80 and 75, anything under this 73 level, it's a stop out. It's gonna come down hard if it breaks under 70, 72, 73-ish.
I was 78.
Yeah.
I look at LLY long term because that shit, now they have third name in the mix, right? And again, I think that this is KTX will come back down eventually between phases. It always does. It'll come back hard. But LOY has just been on such a fucking tear. And it's because they have pretty much all the market share, Ozempic. And it's the valuations are just fucking insane. So now that there's another name in the market, actually, long term, I could see VKTX getting bought out because their market cap's so cheap for someone who wants to get into this game. But
That's what I
you
saw.
see here.
They're an acquisition target now. That's exactly the words I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Yeah. What do you
Makes
see
sense.
in terms of here and where we could potentially expect some downside?
Well, they're unaffected after hours. And even today, they gapped down, but it got mostly bought back. If it was gonna get a reaction, it would have been today. They were already kind of struggling here, right? They already saw an overwhelming sell, and then it failed to make a move back to highs. You were already kind of facing some weakness here, but this is a tough chart. It's a tough chart. Trading purely off of fundamentals. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really have much input here. I don't really know what I would do with this.
Another acquisition target, ATUS, ATUS, Altice Mobile. It has been moving the last couple days off chatter that Charter is considering buying them out. They're a high revenue company and a high market cap company priced like a penny because their debt situation is atrocious. But if they do get an offer, it's going to be significantly higher than the 290 it's at right now.
Who's he? I think he was talking to you.
Actually, Saturday.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap us up real quick with a general market outlook for my man Dorit and Captain real quick. This should benefit everyone. Over the last couple days, right, we've made a kind of blow off top here, right? We shot over 5100. It got wicked, and we kind of saw some profit taking, very minor. Volume has been extremely low over the past couple days. You can see volume has been below average the past two sessions. And then on top of that, today we kind of maintained the balance. We still have yet to retest the breakout over 50-60, but we're still balancing at highs. So I'd argue bulls are very much still in control at the moment. Any shooting star wick like this is definitely something to be on watch for a top alert or a top signal, but we're still maintaining the balance. Again, we haven't even retested the previous breakout. We're just balancing at highs, so bulls are very much still in control. VIX is at lows, so there's really no fear in the market right now. Hedging is very, very low. We do have some major catalysts this week. The big one being Thursday's PCE data, and that is the Fed's primary measure of inflation. So coming into Thursday, again tomorrow, probably another very slow session. If we're being completely honest, tomorrow is probably going to be another boring, choppy, slow session. There will be moves again. We've got this VKT whatever. I'm sorry. I'll put it on the watch list after this. Can you type it in chat for me real quick, Susio? Because I want to keep an eye on it tomorrow. I already forgot the ticker. Um, but there will be independent plays that do well. But if you're trading futures, if you're trading indexes, if you're playing SPX or Qs, I would expect another slow and kind of indecisive, choppy session leading into the PCE data on Thursday. PCE data is going to be very big for us because as of the last FOMC meeting, we have already found out that it is a very low likelihood that we will get a rate cut in March. And if inflation continues to tick back up and we have not killed it off yet, there's a good chance that we could actually, in fact, inverse all expectations and see another rate hike, which could be detrimental to the market on a very big picture. Again, looking broad picture, market's very clearly in a very very strong uptrend. We've made all time highs and have continued to run. Um, Even in a bull market, Hoosier says this all the time, a market can correct anywhere from 8 to 12% and still be considered a bull market, right? We could dip back under all time highs, back under 4,800, and it could get bought right back up and we can head right back to highs. But we have yet to see any real correction. Nothing. Anytime we get some sort of sell action, it is bought right back. So this, PCE data could be very, very telling of the next month or so to come, right? Mo's in here now. He's been talking about a lot recently as well as if inflation continues to tick back up, if we continue to see hot CPI reports, and now if PCE comes in hot, it'll pretty much all but guarantee that we have no rate cut coming in March. In fact, quite the opposite. Maybe not a rate hike in March, but more likely in the June area is what I would expect. We're definitely going to need a few more months of CPI data before we can be confident in any of that. But again, PCE data on Thursday is the big event that we're kind of moving in anticipation for. Again, because of that, I expect tomorrow to be another kind of slow, choppier anticipation session, another low volume day, as we've seen with today and yesterday. Still just balancing at highs for now. Again, no general structure change. Trend is still bullish. Balancing at highs. Bulls are, in my opinion, still in control for the short term, but data could very easily change that. So that's kind of what I'm looking for the end of the week. Again, there are individual names that we will play this week. Again, I'm looking forward to the snow earnings. I'm looking forward to this PCE data. We've got this, what is it, VKTX play that should be some fun tomorrow if we can get those options to show up on the chain. A lot of good stuff. But tomorrow, reduce expectations. Again, today was very slow. I'm kind of expecting the exact same thing tomorrow. But yeah, technically, from a technical perspective, I don't expect, you shouldn't be aggressively shorting. But again, with data, that can change very quickly. Um, Mo, if you want to jump in here, give a little bit more insight as to your massive short position, um, that could be insightful because I know I personally have been a little bit curious about that. No Mike, very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Mo. um, but yeah, that's kind of my kind of outlook for the week. Again, it's very hard to tell over the next couple months or next few weeks, but as for the next 3 days into the end of the week, that's what I'm focused on. Those are the things I'm looking forward to. That clear anything up for you, Dorit?
Don't sleep on March 11th.
Yes, March 11th is also the end of the BTFP program for banks. That could also be detrimental. But again, that is further looking. That is 2 to 3 weeks away. So we'll talk more about that when it approaches. But anyways, you guys, Dorit, I hope you listened. If not, again, to all you new guys in here, it's very encouraging, very motivating to see all you guys showing up and asking questions. I hope this was beneficial to you guys. Um, all of these sessions are recorded and posted on our YouTube page. If you want some more of what you just got, you can head over to the socials page where our both Instagram and TikTok and YouTube links are posted. You can watch all the content you want and always refer back to me with further questions. I'm around all the time and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But again, this video, if you had to take a break or you showed up late or whatever, this video will be posted on YouTube in the next day or so. So again, hope you guys have a great night. Again, thank you all for showing up. It's very motivating, very encouraging. And I hope you guys have a great night and let's have a great day tomorrow and wrap this week up very strong. All right. All right. You guys have a good night. Alright, later, guys.
I was looking at that divergence earlier too. Maybe on mic, but I just fucked up. Well, got again.
Alright, I'm out of here. Who's you have a going, man?
What's your brother? Oh yeah, shit.